Hello, happy Tuesday. I'm just going to I always log in a few minutes early for those of you that sit here and are waiting for me to maybe start. There's a bit of a delay behind the scenes just to get everything up and running here. So I just want to make sure that we are live in Facebook land. Not quite yet. There I am. Perfect. Let me just see here. And thank you for your patience. All right, we are rolling. So for those of you that are just joining me, it is week 3 of 3 parts. I have been working on Tuesdays this month for what I refer to as Tone Up Tuesdays. So week 1, we started with some legs. Last week, we worked on some arms and some shoulders. This week is core, and next Tuesday, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard, I'm going to go through a very 4 to 5 move max total body toning workout. One of the big reasons I got into vibration plates years ago and probably have stuck with it more than I've stuck with anything in my past is I like short. I'm not a big half hour, 3/4 of an hour person when I do my sports. I could play all day long, but exercising for purpose, I got older. I blew out my knee. I had issues. I sought the technology as an alternative to exercise. And if you like doing lots of elaborate routines, lots of different positions, that's fine. That it's very much a personal choice, personal style. This month I've been focusing on more HIIT style. So high intensity, short and interval. A vibration plate is the perfect tool to increase effectiveness and reduce time. So another good way to do that is to focus on good exercises and good positions to do on your plate. I feel like I'm really fuzzy today. I'm coming through fuzzy. Is the camera not adjusting to me? For those of you joining me, there we're clearing up. Let me know if you can see and hear me, and I'll get started with today's routine. For those of you, as I said, that are just joining me, I'm going to get on my knees here. For the first time today, there are 2 prior sessions, the first one being legs and last week being arms and shoulders. Today is about core. There's lots of different core exercises. I wanted to go over 2 very common ones today. Lots of you ask me about crunches, and I get lots and lots of questions about planks. And even though they're both core exercises, they have a different effect on the body. And, some of them are, depending on what you may or may not be dealing with physically, sometimes certain core exercises can be challenging. Maybe you're dealing with a deficiency in your back, or you've got issues with the arms and the shoulders, so it's hard to do planks. So catering to whatever it is that you may be dealing with is a challenge. For core exercises today, we're going to start with a very simple warm-up. If your overall goals are weight loss, to me, toning is like, you're within 10, 15, maybe 20 pounds of where you want to be, and you're working on the definition piece. So some of these exercises, especially when you get into core exercises and sometimes upper body exercises, are they effective at strength and toning? Yes. But if you're looking at losing substantial weight, 50, 60 plus pounds, you gotta burn calories. You're going to need to look at some leg work to accomplish that, in my opinion, long term. Crunches and planks do burn some calories, but not as much as using those big muscle groups in the legs and the glutes. So today would be moves that you want to maybe do and complement with some additional leg exercises if the bigger goal is weight loss. For those of you that are doing leg work, or you're just trying to define and work on certain areas in the core, strengthen the back, there's all different reasons. It's not always a visual, you want to have a 6-pack thing. We're going to go over some basics today. So we're going to start with a warm-up. Today I am working on the Rumblex 4D Plus. All of my sessions are in oscillating movement. Oscillating movement mimics how we walk. It is the foundational movement of all of this. It's what started it all. It's got the most research. But more importantly, for those of you using plates and trying to decide which one should I get, or if you're using a Rumblex and you've got, all these different features and movement styles and you're not sure, so you're just throwing it all together. Oscillating has not only the most things that you can adjust while you're using the plate for comfort, it happens to be, in my opinion, a better movement style just for working on core. Core work, especially some of the moves we're doing today, are about destabilizing the core. Same reasons that you use Bosu balls and do some of the plank exercises. It's about destabilizing the core. And oscillating movement does a very good job of destabilizing your body while it's on this platform. So by doing your regular core exercises on your vibration plate and adding this layer of movement, it challenges the body further. It fatigues you faster, which is important for some of you maybe dealing with chronic issues, fatigue, cardiac issues. There's reasons you want to get to fatigue faster. So by doing your exercises on a plate, first and foremost, you're going to get more benefit, but you're going to get more bang for your buck in less time. So the warm-up today is a variation on something I do very commonly standing. We're going to do some kneeling pelvic tilts. I do this very commonly standing, but because I do it all the time, and I told you had to be able to be down on the ground for today's session, I thought we'd start there. So I have a very small mat. This is a little mat that I've cut for my hexaplate model. I always cut out a spot for the buttons, but I like using a smaller mat because I don't want your body parts in a warm-up type position extremely wide. So one of the advantages of using an oscillating plate is you are always in control of the intensity. If you're really wide with the feet or the knees or the hands, you're shaking more. That's more intensity. It's more impact. So if you're dealing with chronic issues, think more conservatively. Keep the feet or the knees, in this case, under the hips or closer if you want to reduce the speed. Now, unlike my normal sessions, I'm just positioning myself with my knees hip width apart on the plate. My feet are kind of just resting on the ground to balance me. I normally work with a mid to a higher speed range on all of my exercises. Today's going to be a little different because we're talking about destabilizing. And destabilizing speeds in oscillating are the slower end, the really low, wobbly, choppy speeds that I don't typically like you with chronic issues starting at. But for core work, it's kind of ideal. So I'm in manual mode. I'm only working with a speed of about 15 to 20 today. So bring your plate up to that range and you'll feel it gets a little smoother. It's a little less choppy once you get moving a little faster. And a standing pelvic tilt is simply, we're going to clench the bum forward. We're not moving like this. We are just moving the bum forward, clenching those butt cheeks, and we're going to tilt back. And you almost feel a little stretch in that low back if you're doing it properly. Nice straight core. Make sure we're breathing. Tilt the pelvis forward. Hold for 2 to 3 seconds. And then tilt it backwards. Again, you'll feel that arch in the low back. If you feel comfortable continuing to move, or if you'd prefer to do some little hip circles, all I want to do is get the hips warmed up and the low back for some of the stuff we're going to do too later when we get to planks and crunches. So I just want to get a little blood flow, a little movement going in that core area. If you have knee issues and you're looking at me saying, I can't do that, I can do the planks, but I can't get on my knees, you can absolutely do this exercise standing as well. You do not have to do it kneeling, just a variation on a theme, okay? The next thing I want to do is get a little bit of action going into the upper body a bit more directly because we're going to be using our arms for planks. What I don't want you doing, especially for my ladies, if your arms are not terribly conditioned, I don't want you doing a big upper body workout before you do your core. You're going to need your arms for your planks today. So if you do want to do additional upper body work, do it after you've killed the core so you can have some arm strength for the upper body exercises with the planks. So what I like to do is I just lean back on those feet on the ground, put your hands on the platform beside you, knees and shins are still on the machine. We're just undoing bending the elbows just slightly, just to get a little bit of lymph and circulation. Loosen up those shoulders, okay? Maybe do some shoulder rolls, some neck turns. You know, if it's later in your day and you've been hunched over a computer all day, you know, loosening up this area and getting some blood flow, preparing the muscle groups for what we're going to do next is a phenomenal way to use your plate, whether you're doing a workout on the plate with me today or something else. The next one I want to go into is like a cat-cow, but we're going to do it in 2 different ways. So you notice I've got the Life Pro Aero Step, a step mat in front, or step in front of me. We're going to get back up on our knees, but we're going to hinge and bend over, and we're going to put our upper body on the step. So going from this position where the hips are moving in this direction, once we bend over, the hips are moving in a different fashion. This is a great way to really loosen up the hips, the low back. For a lot of my guys in particular with low back issues, this is a fave move of theirs. If you want to get a little bit further up the mid-back, lean back into it a little bit. You could continue doing pelvic tilts. Okay. So that's way 1. Any of these warm-up exercises, 30 seconds to a minute. The variation on the cat-cow, we're now going to turn around. We're going to put the knees on the step. And we're going to put the upper body on the plate. And we're just going to mimic the same motion. Arch up like a cat. Back down. Arms are slightly bent. Shoulders are above the hands. That helps minimize the head vibe. If you're looking down at your hands, you're getting the most head vibration. If you tilt forward just slightly, unbending at the hips, get those shoulders over top of the hands, you're going to minimize about 95% of the head vibration. And keep the hands no more than shoulder width apart, closer if this is too much action for you. And again, this is just a warm-up. So 30 seconds to a minute, either way. We should be about 2 to 3 minutes total on that warm-up. So now the next one we're going to get into, we're not going to screw around today. We're going to get right into crunches. This can be a very good tool if you are learning to do crunches. I think I'm going to turn myself a little more sideways. Okay. So crunches work 2 parts of our abs. To simplify this, I'm going to put a line right down the middle across the belly button. And crunches, depending on the style of crunch and where you're at in your ability, we can work the lower abs, the mummy tummy portion, or we can work the upper, okay? Using your legs in conjunction with your upper body is the only way to target everything. We're going to break a crunch into 2 parts. So if you have a sticky outy tailbone, or you're slim, or you bruise easily, or you have problems, you may want to put a mat back on your plate. You can do a crunch 2 ways. You can do it seated forward. I'm going to do it seated sideways, slightly different today. Okay, so my bum is dead center. Okay, you don't want to be too far this way or this way. It'll make the move impossible. What I have the step for is it's for those of you that do not have the core strength and you're not doing crunches now. It gets the feet a little bit higher off the ground, more like you're doing the exercise on the floor. And when we get to the leg portion, it makes it a little bit easier for you to begin these exercises. So the first part that I like to coach on a crunch is from the belly button up. And you can put your arms here. This is less weight. If you're putting your arms here, it's more mass because we're resisting gravity as we go lower into our position. What I want you to do with your upper body is just lean backwards. You want to maintain a nice straight spine. Make sure that you're breathing. What I don't want is to see a curve in the neck. Okay? Go as low as you can. And you'll get to a point where you feel like you've got to bend the neck. That's lower than I want you going. So come back up to where you can maintain a nice straight line between the neck and the spine. And just hold still and focus on your breathing. Come back up when you need a rest. Okay, you do not need to do dynamic movement yet. I would prefer you focusing on good technique, get a solid understanding of how when you're doing these types of positions, where you're feeling it, where do you feel weak, where do you feel strong, before you start adding movement focus on some good technique. So again, we're going to keep a nice straight spine and neck. We're going to lean back, and we're just going to hold still at the point where you feel like if you wanted to go lower, you got to bend the neck. That's your stop point. Put the arms here, here if you want more challenge, whatever works better for you. So if that's all you're able to do at this point, good for you. Do 3-4 reps. I would love to see about a minute total. If you're able to do that position for a minute total, you might be in a little bit better core shape than you think, and you need to progress. So the progression on a crunch is adding the legs. Some call it a V-sit, some call it a crunch. But by engaging the legs, we then engage the lower abdominal muscles from the belly button down. So I'm also going to break this into 2 parts. I want you leaning back, putting your hands on the floor. Okay, we're not going to do the upper body part, just rest on your hands. I want you focusing now on just slightly lifting the legs. And you'll feel, oh, it's my tummy. My tummy's picking that up, okay? If you're doing these exercises now and you want more challenge, you might look something more like this. The more that you can elongate, add movement, do other things to the lower half, the more you're going to challenge those lower muscles. The harder exercise would be combining the 2. So again, let's just look at this bottom one. We're going to lift the legs just slightly. Focus on breathing. Now let's add the upper. Lift up those hands and bring them to the side. Remember, we're keeping a nice straight spine and neck. Focus on breathing. Lean forward and just rest those feet on the plate when you feel like you need a break. If you are dealing with low back issues, sometimes the back will quit before the abs. The goal with core strength is to have a good balance, good symmetry throughout the core. And when you start doing new exercises that you're not used to doing, it very quickly points out the weak spots or the deficiencies. So if it is, especially if it's the low back, pay attention to it. Don't push through. I would rather see you do more multiple small reps than one big mean one where your technique starts going out the window and you're over exercising your back. A vibration machine doesn't hurt anything, but we hurt ourselves by taking on more than we're ready for with any activity. It just happens a little quicker on a plate. So again, first part of the exercise, just to review this one, we're going to lift the legs. We can feel that those lower abs, I got to bring the speed up here. Speed, I'm at 15 to 20. We're going to add the upper body. Nice, straight spine and neck. Hold, 2, 3. For those of you that are doing these exercises regularly and you want more action, there's so many different variations that you can do on a crunch. You could do dynamic movement. Okay, you could do some bicycles, right? You are only limited by your imagination and your range of motion. And if you're doing crunches now and you're looking at my simple little explanations here and they're simply too easy, you need to know what you're capable of and what you should be doing is exercises that are challenging for you. Whatever that exercise or that crunch variation looks like, I would love to see you fatiguing within a minute. If you're not fatiguing within a total minute, you need to make the exercise itself more challenging. For those of you just starting out, focus on good technique. Learn the upper body portion first. Be comfortable and solid with that. Then add the legs to the equation. Whatever you're able to tolerate. And maybe you're doing several small reps. Eventually, the durations will build out as your strength and your endurance builds in those areas. So that's a basic crunch. And again, a crunch can be done this way. You feel more like you're destabilizing this way. I like doing it this way because I feel it challenges my low back a little bit more. It's just my preference. But a crunch can be done directly facing this way on a plate, okay? Or it can be done this way. So let's move on to the next one. The next one I have on my list is called a reverse plank. What is a reverse plank, Debbie? So a reverse plank, keeping in mind those of you that may have some low back issues. No, hang on, I just ran out of my glasses. Okay. This is the reason I wanted you to save your arms for the latter part of the program. Okay, so here, let me just make this up a bit more. Okay, so a reverse plank is instead of facing the floor, we're looking at the ceiling. So I prefer, if you're just starting out planks for the first time, if you're lacking upper body strength, it's challenging putting your upper body on the plate. I find very often with many of my ladies that the arms fatigue before the abs do. So the goal today is about core. If you do want to include upper body or you're working on that as well, I would suggest leaving the upper body stuff until after you've done the core, because you're going to need them to hold yourself up. Just because your arms are on a vibration plate doesn't mean that they're not doing some work here. So a reverse plank, we've got our heels on the plate. I've got a mat down on the plate to cushion the heels. Maybe you're wearing shoes. I want you starting in the position where you're resting on the forearms on the ground. We're going to keep the speed at that 15 to 20 range. Okay. Have your feet about hip width apart. If it's close, you don't get as much wobble. Wider is more destabilizing. And what we're going to do is we're just going to lift our glutes. And we want to be flat like a table. We're looking up at the ceiling. We're going to hold 2, 3, 4, and relax. Come down. If you do have shoulder issues, arm issues, it's a good idea to do this one in multiple reps versus trying to push for a big, long duration. So we're going to lift, hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 3 to 5 reps again on this one, perhaps pushing towards the 45-second to a minute mark. This is a great way to get started. If it's too challenging and you can't lift yourself up off the ground, you're not ready for all of your body weight yet, here's a little tip. Move forward, rest the calves on the plate so the feet and the heels are hanging off the machine, and we're going to take some of your body weight out of the equation. Everybody's got to start somewhere. So we're going to come back down here now on the forearms, and we're going to lift. It's not as challenging. You've cut a lot of your body weight out of the equation, but I would rather you progress from here than take on more than you're ready for. Okay, so this is a little bit of an easier way to get started. Okay, so that is a reverse plank. It's going to be a little bit more action on the glutes and the low back, but you'll never wrench your low back. So if you are having issues, you've over-exercised or you're typically dealing with back issues, sometimes a full-on push-up or a plank where you start getting a dip in the low back can be challenging. This is a great way to avoid being in that situation. The next one we're going to move on to is called a side plank. So we're going to work this part of the body. If you do not have upper body strength at this point and that last one killed you, this one is harder because we're going to essentially be putting all of our mass onto one arm. What I want you doing is I'm going to turn to the side that is down. Place that foot forward on the plate. You'll want a mat on this one. The leg that is on top, place it directly behind on the plate so that our feet are apart, but one is in front of the other, the bottom leg being in the front. We're going to position ourselves on this forearm. You can use this arm. We're going to push ourselves up off the ground. Now, if you need to hold yourself up, you can do this, but you're going to feel it a lot more if you bring this arm up on your side and just hold. Push this side up, no dips. Keep that up. Okay? For those of you that do these types of exercises regularly, if you want to add some movement, that's fine. If you have more upper body strength and you'd prefer to come up to your single hand, feel free to do that as well. Okay? For this one, 5-10 seconds, maybe do a couple of different reps. If you feel that you'd prefer to just push through whatever feels more comfortable. We, of course, have to do this on both sides. So it's very easy. We just flip over, point the feet that way. Bottom foot is now in front. Top foot is behind. Place that forearm on the ground and lift ourselves up. Hold. Lift this up. Okay? Again, if you've got more game and you want to make it more challenging, come up to your hand. Hold. Okay? Those are side planks. I haven't done some of these in a while, so if I'm wobbling, I really am wobbling. The last one I want to review with you is a traditional plank. Many of you ask, about putting forearms on the plate. I kind of covered this in the upper body one last week. I'm not the vibration people authority, but I can tell you from experience, I have more people with shoulder and arm issues than not. And what I don't like about forearms on the plate, your elbow is the point of contact, which drives the movement, the intensity. And most of you, when you're doing planks on the plate, are positioned like this. If you can bring your elbows closer, you're going to reduce the amount of shake and intensity. And as I said, so many of you are fatiguing in the upper body long before the core even gets a good workout. So we're going to reverse it today. We're going to put our feet on the plate. We're going to put our arms on the ground. You can do it like this, or you can come up to your hands, whatever you prefer. And I want to burn out the core before the upper body dies out. So how this looks for me, because I'm a little more conditioned and I do these types of exercises a bit more regularly, I like to add leg movement. I'm going to get you into the basic position first. So the basic position on this one, we're working with the same speed. Try and get your feet wide. You can start on the forearms. You want to just engage that core and hold still. We don't want to see this. You want to keep a nice straight upper body or body. If you've got more game, this is a push-up, but it's also a plank. It's going to give you more upper body exercise. If you unbend the elbows and slightly bend your knees, this becomes a much more challenging exercise. Hold still. If you want more cardio, you want more action in the core, there's a bazillion variations on a plank. Pick one that challenges you. My favorite is one called a mountain climber. Now that I've done a few moves, I might be a little wobbly on this one. But this one, I'm about getting as much done as I can in the course of 1 minute on these plates. So I really like the twists and the turns and the upper body strength this requires. So for the mountain climber, we're going to come down one arm at a time and we're going to come back up. So we're going to come down, down, up, up. Very rolly, wobbly movements in the core. Like I say, if you Google plank variations, you're going to see about 5,000 things come up with variations. Pick something that's challenging for you. If you've been doing planks now, but you haven't tried doing them on your vibration plate, you may find that there's enough challenge that your fatigue sets in pretty quick. But if you are conditioned and you're looking for more challenge, perhaps it's dynamic movements, perhaps it's doing some good leg and upper body exercises. The whole goal with core exercises is to keep that core strengthened, toned, and as I said, if weight loss overall is a goal, you may want to make sure you get some regular leg work, get that metabolism boosted, get some calories flowing before you get down on the ground and do some of your core stuff. So we're going to do a bit of a wind down now. And I am going to use my step today. You do not need to use your step, but when I get into massage, I like getting real lazy. So I'm going to show you how to massage all the way around the core. We're going to start with the low back. Then I'm going to show you how to do the sides, and then we're going to flip over and we can massage the tummy. So you may want to have a mat handy depending on what body parts might be protruding a bit more. My hip bones stick out a little bit. You may find you want some padding for some of the exercises we're going to do here. So the first one is we're going to massage the low back. And how I get into this position is we're going to sit directly on the plate, coming forward as much as you can. We want to get kind of the low back itself on the plate. So I'm using the step. You can absolutely hold yourself up on your forearms if you do not have a step, but I do, so I'm going to use it. I'm going to lay my upper body down on this, and I'm simply going to lift my knees to get a little more body weight into the equation. If your feet are on the ground, you leave this small in the back, that tire portion. That's what we want on the plate. So we're going to lift up, and we're just going to massage the tire, the low back. A lot of my guys like this one just as a therapeutic treatment itself. I really enjoy it for the skin tone. I will tell you, I can tell just by doing it, you want to crank it up on the massage. So, crank it up like 40 to 50. The faster speeds on oscillation are smoother. You're only going to be doing any of these exercises for about a minute a piece. If you are using other moves or modes like pulsation or lateral, all of these moves are universal. It's just, mix it up from time to time so that the body doesn't get stagnant and too used to any one thing. So that's why I always speak in ranges in my speeds. I want you to mix it up from week to week. So that's how we do the low back. The next portion is going to be the outer thigh, the hip, and the love handles around the side. We're going to do a quarter turn to the left. We're going to position our hip in the middle of the platform. We're going to either rest on the step with our upper body, or maybe you want to be lazy and lay down. We're going to bend our knees, and we're going to rest the upper leg on the bottom one. Oh, hang on. And I ran out of time. So if you want to get more like into the hip joint itself, coming up on your arm, you'll feel it drives the body weight in a different way. Laying down is a little bit more massage on the skin tone on that outer hip, the outer thigh, and the side tires. So that's how you do one side. To do the other side, you simply turn around. So flip, hips are in the middle. We're going to lay one on top of the other. And again, a minute, maybe two max if you're doing this as a single thing. The very last one we're going to do that I'm sure everybody's the most curious about is the tummy. So the tummy, I line up like I'm doing the tops of the thighs, but we scooch down ever so slightly, just up until the belly button line is a good precaution. I'm going to lay down so that my kneecaps are off the plate, and then I'm going to kind of wiggle down until I get to where I want to be. And then let's just lift the legs up and just relax. If you do not have the step, you can absolutely just hold yourself up on the ground. Again, maybe a minute, two max on this position. It's absolutely fine to lay this portion on the machine. It's movement, but I do want to make sure if the range of motion or if you have any mobility issues, just make sure that you're not signing up for more than you're ready for. The getting down on the ground and the rolling around doesn't seem like much sometimes until you try to stand up. So make sure that you're also working on leg strength and these type of things. If you are dealing with chronic issues and you want to start taking advantage of some of these applications, it's never the getting down, it's the getting back up. So just be aware of that. So that's my lecture for today. There is no definitive list, no perfect setting that I can give you as far as making sure that your core is getting toned. You're all very unique and you're all very individual, and you kind of gotta, decipher for you not only what exercises are most appropriate, but make sure that there's something that you can enjoy and see yourself sticking with long term. The key with any of the fitness goals, the weight loss, the toning, the bone density, any of those things are the key is consistency. So core exercises, I typically am doing them, 3 to 4 times a week in some way, shape, or form. I don't do like a core workout. I tend to do more total body style, which I'll get into next week. But if I am doing core work, my favorite types of exercises, bar none, are planks. Planks are going to burn more calories than crunches. They tend to be a little bit more encompassing as far as conditioning all of the muscles of the core, not just specifically the abs and the low back. And especially for my folks dealing with low back issues, there's more ways that you can modify and work on those planks, as I showed you in today's session, whether it's just a short-term thing you're going through with your back or something that you're working on long-term. You can do any of these exercises, but sometimes you need to make modifications based on what you're dealing with. If you are dealing with any spinal or neck or any issues, and there's certain exercises you've been told by your doctor or your therapist to avoid, please keep those in mind when you're working on your vibration plate as well. Sometimes there's certain stretches or sometimes crunches and planks themselves. If you're in a recovery situation or working with a therapist, just make sure that if you have exercises that you're supposed to be doing, those are good examples of things that you can do on your vibration plate, but also be mindful of ones that you've been told to avoid. You shouldn't do those on the plate either. So I hope that makes sense. I hope everybody's enlightened. I just wanted to check for some comments, and you know what? You guys are all huffing and puffing from the workout today. So you don't have the energy or the breath to comment. If you're not doing core exercises right now, how often should you be doing these exercises? Every trainer's got a little bit of a different answer, but for me, I like doing a little bit of legs every day to keep the weight off, to keep the knees strong, to give me energy. But when it comes to core and upper body, I'm an every other, type of thing, especially if you're pushing yourself to fatigue. There's a difference between feel good and fitness use, even though an exercise might be the same, doing it moderately and just to relieve some circulation and congestion issues in the lymph versus pushing to fatigue would be the difference. So sometimes an exercise is both fitness and feel good. It's the durations, it's the level of effort and exertion that kind of defines whether it's just of a therapeutic nature or fitness. So if you're using it therapeutically, of course, absolutely every day is fine, and sometimes multiple times a day. But if you're using a machine multiple times a day, be mindful of those durations, especially if you're starting out. For those of you that are looking for the bigger fitness gains, you got to put in the time. You got to put in the effort. Going longer and longer isn't going to be the way to win the race. And if you're looking for ways to get started with that, review the sessions that I've done this month, starting with legs. Learning to a good solid squat and a few basic exercises is going to go a long way in your weight loss journey, especially if you're not coming from a big place of exercise for purpose. Sometimes a routine with a whole lot of moves could just be intimidating and get you back off your machine and demotivated just as quick as you made the decision to purchase it. So keep it simple and be consistent with your exercises. That's going to be the best way to have the best results long term. I have a few of you here with me. Does anyone have questions for me today? Perhaps you don't. If you're watching this on a recorded basis and do have some questions, feel free to tag me at Debbie with a Y. Sometimes as the conversations evolve, I may not get notifications that there was a new comment, but if you tag me and have a question specifically, I'll be sure to get notified on that. And if you're doing core exercises now and have your own ideas, I'd love to hear what some of those are as well. If you're just looking at a plate or you're on the fence on some of the other tools that LifePro has to offer, there is still a big deal sale on 20% off with a potential other 20% off and a free gift on select items. So be sure to check them out as well. And thank you for joining me today. I will see you same time next week, 6 p.m. Eastern time, for a very intense but short total body workout to round off our toning month of September. Thank you for joining me. Have a great rest of your week and don't work too hard. Thanks, guys.